How do you go from Mascot? Well, I guess tell me about Mascot to professor. Now, through your career, how did you end up becoming a professor or a clinical associate professor? First off, what is a clinical associate professor, and like why the clinical?
Well, okay, there. You know
what,
what?
doctorate.
You know what? Well, I do have my doctorate, but you don't have to be a clinical.
Okay.
You hear, everybody kind of knows what tenure is. You can be a tenure track professor. And generally, a tenure track professor is somebody that would be an associate tenure track professor, which is the level I am in clinical, would probably be 40, and on the way to becoming a tenure track professor. And the reason I say they're 40 and I'm 55 at my point, all the experience that they've needed to get to the point of where they're getting really close to tenure is teaching and really academic research. To get to the point of being to really be a clinical professor at a good university, you need to maybe be known within your industry for whatever topic you're teaching. And I kind of built that one up, but it's a much easier thing if you actually have a PhD. So SIBO, when I was there working in the education department, they had a tuition reimbursement thing that kind of helped me work toward getting a PhD. But my intent behind getting the PhD was to end up working at a university. And even though I'm not a tenure track guy, they really like having that PhD because for accreditation purposes, a certain number of courses have to be taught by PhDs at universities. And then you can have some adjuncts and some other things. And for lack of a better way to put it, I don't count against that score, even though I'm a clinical type professor. So no, I found that I really liked interacting with college groups that came to the SIBO, and got invited to teach at a couple of other colleges, and then worked up to Loyola and decided this was going to be the end of the career. So that's kind of how I got there.
Oh, that makes sense. Just, wind down and give back pretty much.
Yeah. And I do feel like I got a former student at Loyola that I helped out an awful lot. Mom was a single mom from Poland. She lived with her mom. Her mom, was a Polish maid basically. And I kind of gave this person some guidance and help them out interviewing wise. And now they're almost making six figures at one of the exchanges.
Excellent.
I get more satisfaction out of that than anything I've ever done professionally.
Yeah.
I really like that, that give back.
Tarashuk is Polish. So it's always helpful. It's always good to hear you helping a fellow Polak. It's always good to hear. So like what class do you teach specifically?
Okay.
What's the name of the class, and what is the curriculum look like, or the syllabus?
Well, I teach I teach both in the graduate school and the undergraduate school. And for undergrads, that'll be an easy lift because I just finished teaching that about an hour ago. It's kind of like the second level finance class that gets deeper into corporate finance, and then also talks about how to value bonds and value stocks. So a lot more practical information than they're getting in some of the earlier finance classes.
So it's like a little second tier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like I said, I've been at a handful of schools, and at Loyola, it was the three tiers were corporate, intermediate, and intermediate finance, and then investments. Here, investments the second one, but it's that's where we are in that order. I teach a graduate class in derivatives, which was one of the reasons I was brought over here. That is a lot more theoretical than you really need to get into in the real world. You don't necessarily really, if you're trading options, you don't necessarily have to know exactly how that price, how the Black-Scholes calculator calculates the price. In my class, you've got to know how that works. So takes it a little bit deeper than you might need professionally for the derivative class.
Is it more lecture halls, like 50, 60, 70 kids, or is it more smaller classroom, 15, 20, 30?
My undergraduate classes are like I think both of them are about 45.
Okay.
Some of the graduate classes that I teach have about 50 students in them each, but it's not like a big lecture hall. It's more just like a oversized classroom. That derivative class that I'll be teaching, I think I'm only going to have about a dozen students, which I'm looking forward to that.